the premiere of Foreshadowing Tech, a new series that looks at how science fiction and technology have interacted and influenced each other. This time, 2001, A Space Odyssey, and 2010, the year we made contact. This is MacVoices. Welcome to Foreshadowing Tech. This is a new series here on MacVoices where we're going to look at the portrayal of tech in science fiction movies, TV, anywhere else we can think of, and how it has influenced the design and our reaction to technology in today's world, as well as just being plain old fun in science fiction. So I am happy to welcome the two proposed regular panelists. We'll see how it goes after this, if they want to be panelists anymore or not. Marty Jencius.
Back.
Yeah, Marty Jencius and Jeff Gamet. Gentlemen, thank you. Great to have you both.
It's awesome to be here.
Yeah. This is an exciting topic and a lot of fun to converse about. So thanks for having me.
Well, no, we've danced around this in some of the MacVoices live shows a little bit, but we never really take it to a conclusion. And I thought there's so many instances of this. And, you know, we could bring up all the obvious ones, and we will be eventually in future episodes. So just to set the cadence here, we're hoping to do one of these a month, maybe a little more often, maybe a little less often, because everybody here is busy, but we also want to keep the theme going. And we'd love to have your thoughts too. So please drop me an email at chuck@macvoices.com or use the contact form on the MacVoices website. That's usually the best way to make sure it doesn't end up in spam. About, you know, what your reactions are to the concept, to what we are going to say here today in the first inaugural show, and anything else that you want to say about this particular topic. One quick warning, though. We are going to be talking about things that are quite old, sometimes decades old, like today's topics. And so if you haven't seen these videos or movies or whatever, then please stop, go watch, unless you don't mind having spoilers, because we have to have spoilers in order to talk about them.
Yeah, if you're going to go watch everything right now, it's okay. We'll wait.
Yeah, just hit the pause button. Otherwise,
we're here.
Yeah, we'll be here when you get back.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's going to be a whole lot of nothing on YouTube. So we are kicking off this with sort of a double feature: 2001: A Space Odyssey, and the sequel, 2010, The Year We Made Contact. We're doing it as a double feature because both could stand alone very easily on their own, but there is some continuity between the two movies, even though they were quite a bit of time apart. And I felt like it would serve us well, for various reasons that I hope will become obvious, to do it as one unit. Guys, I spent, I think I've rewatched both of them now 2 or 3 times, again, to sort of get up to speed. I have a few notes, but I would like to hear from you on what your thoughts are as we kick this off.
Marty, I will be more than happy to let you go first, unless you want me to dive in.
I want to tell my 2001 story.
Okay.
Because this came out when I was 10 years old. And my dad and I did not spend, well, he was a fine dad. We just didn't do father-son things together as much. But for some reason, probably at his office, everybody was talking about this movie, 2001. And he figured he had to go see it. So he took me, a 10-year-old child, to see this film. And to me, it was not, I mean, at that age, I hadn't seen a lot of movies. I'd seen some stuff on Saturday mornings at the theater where they dropped us off and we saw old cartoons. But to me, this was not science fiction. This was a documentary, you know, how it was going to be. And I was just transfixed by it. I didn't quite understand the ending of it, but it didn't matter. It was so cool. And it kind of shaped my expectations about science fiction from that moment forward. And I started looking at more science fiction that has basis in reality. Just a great, I mean, it was a fond childhood memory between me and my father, but it was also impressionable to me to a 10-year-old. So that's my first take with 2001. Then 2010 was, I got to see this film just because of the connection to 2001. So,
Jeff?
All right. Well, here's my story of getting into 2001. Also, just so you know, 2001 is in my very short list of favorite movies of all time. And I have seen it many, many times. So for me, I didn't experience the movie until I was older than Marty was when he saw it. And it was actually in school. And I don't remember what the class was, but it was either like middle school or like early high school. And but I mean, it tells you what an impression it made on me. I remember seeing this movie in a class, and it just like profoundly changed my existence. I have no idea what the class was, and it's actually irrelevant at this point. But seeing that movie, by that point, we'd already had the Apollo program, and Skylab had already happened, and there were all these things that happened that didn't exist when the movie was released. So I had the perspective of someone that knew about the manned space exploration limited that we had done by that point. So that was I guess the space shuttle existed by that point too. Anyhow, so it was just this very profound movie for me, and the ending, I didn't understand parts of it, but by the time we got to the end credits, I was like, oh, he evolved, but they made it happen fast. And but then I went and read the book, and the book is very similar to the movie because it was being written in tandem. But there's also enough differences and additional detail that it was very helpful to read the book. So when the book 2010 came out, I jumped on that and was super excited to read it, and I enjoyed it very much. And then when the movie came out, I was super excited to see that, and I enjoyed it. But to me, that is not even close to the same class as 2001. But it was still an enjoyable movie. And to this day, I watch both movies every year. 2001, I'll watch it a few times a year. 2010, I'll probably watch it once a year. Yeah, but they're both very enjoyable movies. 2001 is a life-changing experience.
And there were differences in how Arthur C. Clarke related to both of the directors. In 2001, it was Stanley Kubrick. Clarke wanted to be sort of a scientific rationalist and wanted to tell a story from that standpoint. And Kubrick didn't want to give away all the secrets. So as they're putting the script together, you'll notice in 2001, there's lots of empty spaces and silence through the film. And that was essentially dialogue explaining what was going on that Kubrick just cut out of it and kind of wanted the story to speak for itself and wanted people to be left with mystery and not having answers. In fact, Clarke was quoted as saying, if you walk out of 2001 and you understand it, then we haven't done our job.
That's
because
fair.
he
Yep.
kind of went into that point. Hyams had a different relationship with Clarke at that point and was about really kind of incorporating all the science into and a clear storytelling. So people understood what was going on in that movie. So two different directors, two different approaches, but two really beloved movies.
Yeah.
So to catch up here a little bit, because Marty, you bring up a really great point that I want to talk about. But my experience was probably I was around the same age Marty was when I saw it, and to Marty's point, I didn't completely understand the ending, but at that age, I was space crazy anyway. And so, that middle part of the movie where, you are on the ship and, they're jogging around the wheel and all those things were like, straight out of all the science fiction I'd read up to that point. And now instead of having to imagine it, you got to see it. And it was so well done that, that you knew you were in the future. And it left. My dad took me to see it too, and he was never much of a science fiction person, and so we kind of walked out and he said, "What happened?" And it's like, well, I can't explain it either, but I liked it. So I'm not sure he did, but that's fine. That's fine. But Marty, you bring up an interesting thing about that because watching these two movies now back to back, I'm struck by the pacing of the storytelling. That and that seems to be something that if I go back and watch old movies from the early 70s, even the 60s, the pace was different and it really shows. But I felt like with 2001 to 2010, the pace was different, but it didn't show. I didn't notice it nearly as much. And maybe it's because of how Kubrick structured things.
Yeah, I think there was a more complicated story to tell, a more complete story to tell in 2010. So you're getting the storyline done in a way that you have to get all that information in or people are not going to understand where the film is. And I think Kubrick had a much, they had to find the monolith. The monolith had to line up and send the signal to Jupiter, which then sent the spacecraft to Jupiter. And then what happens in Jupiter is the interaction, knowing that whatever this life form is, knows that man has arrived and has evolved to be able to do space travel. And then David Bowman evolves in that process as sort of a ambassador for that whole process. So very simple storyline. He's got 2 hours to do with it, and incredible cinematography, model design, and experience in it. One scene I'll mention in particular because flash forward 10 years later or 7 years later, and I'm at the University of Illinois, and they had midnight movies, and the midnight movies were the older films that had done their run that they would show Saturday night at midnight at the Follinger Auditorium that seated 2,000 people, and it was basically people coming from the bars. And one of the movies they showed was 2001. Well, the other one they showed was Risky Business. And when Tom Cruise says, "Looks like it's the University of Illinois," everybody in the crowd goes nuts. And the same thing happens when they decerebrate Hal, and he says, "I was born at the Computer Educational Resource Laboratory in Urbana-Champaign at University of Illinois. And at that time, I was running data cards over at Searle." So this movie just kind of, I don't know what's going to happen next in my life, but there'll probably be a scene from 2001 in it somewhere.
We can live in hope. Yeah. Okay, so Marty, you talked about Chuck, I know we haven't gotten to the core of what we're doing, but like Kubrick, it's a path. So Marty, you talked about the silences and that Kubrick included. So when I look at the two movies, I see the silence and the emptiness that they show as a core element to help express what they're doing. Because traveling from Earth to Jupiter, by the way, in the original script it was Saturn, but they couldn't create the rings in the special effects, so that they looked believable. So they switched it to Jupiter, and since then we have learned that all the gas giants in our solar system have rings. So yeah, there you go. That's one they got wrong, but yeah, they didn't know
I
yet.
heard that Clarke had put out different versions of the book. Originally, it was Saturn, and then he switched it to Jupiter in the version of the book because it then followed along with the movie.
Yes, I heard that too.
Wow.
So, but yeah, the silence, they needed to have that to show just how massive and empty the area is, going from Earth to the moon to anything, and you didn't have that in other science fiction. It was all just super fast. And then you get to the movie 2010, and it's a different era. Like literally, we are in a different era. It's a different style of movie making, and it's a different type of story. So you have to have everything more fast paced. I mean, at that point, you're doing it's a space race, like a literal race to get to Europa, and to get to Jupiter. And they even cut out like a whole section, a whole storyline from the book just to fit, because then there's also the race with the Chinese to get there, where it's basically two spaceships neck and neck trying to get there. But anyhow, yeah, it's a different type of storytelling, and also a different era that has, in a way, dictated what sort of storytelling would be acceptable.
Yeah, from 67 to 84, I think was when 2010 came out. Was there a big difference in space communication? I mean, did they have satellite systems that were then set up to improve what would be the communication that they could write about in 2010? Because the satellite thing was all kind of Clarke's projection of what the future might be like.
Oh yeah. By the time 2010 came out, yes, there were communication satellites in use, not like they are today, but communication satellites were already a thing.
Yeah. Okay, so to bring this to present day, and I'm blanking on who the commercial is for, but there is a commercial out there right now talking about satellite communication with old footage of Arthur C. Clarke talking about that and how, the implications of it. And it's talking about satellite connectivity through your phone. So it really is, it is intriguing. But you also, the quiet part are the silences. You two were talking about the silences. The overall movie is very quiet. Except for the chimpanzees going nuts at the beginning. Everything is very proto-humans. Okay, it's there is not a lot of score to it, as far as there's the magnificent musical part where you're going to the space station. Thank you. I couldn't say it, but overall, there's not a lot of let's build tension with the music, or let's solve tension with the music, or something. All the space scenes, the outside scenes of the ship they're silent,
except for respirator sounds.
Yes,
when they went to the point of view of whoever the astronaut was at the time, you would hear their respirator. But when they were out of that point of view and taking a full shot, it was silent.
Yeah,
it was cool.
So let's get to some of the foreshadowing text part, and I'll throw a couple out here. And I want you guys to chime in because you probably have some of the same. The seat back video screens. So we've had that, and we've already moved beyond it. I loved it. Jeff, you I think you can identify with this. I'm not sure Marty can, but the whole docking sequence and the video screens in the docking sequence remind me of John Martellero's Space Shuttle Simulator from the Apple II days.
Yes.
And it's like that, I felt like, and of course we recently lost John, who was a friend to Jeff and to me. I don't know, Marty, did you know John?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. He was such a great guy.
I'm sorry you never got to meet him. You would have gotten along so well.
Absolutely. But I looked at that and I thought, I used to play that game, when the Apple II came out a whole lot later, of trying to get that. And I never, I almost always crashed the shuttle. And I'll throw out one
I was
last
an
one.
expert crash person. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw out one last one, and that is the Voiceprint identification. That seems kind of primitive compared to what we have now with the iPhones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does predict biometric identification and authentication.
True. Pick some.
Now, to be fair, Voiceprint identification, we had already seen this prior to 2001, not much prior, but and I know I'm crossing to a different series just for a second. We see Voiceprint identification in the Star Trek TV series, the original series, which predates this by a couple of years.
Yeah.
But still, it counts. This counts. It's predicting it.
Yeah. Give me some others, guys, because I've got a list and I can go down them. But what else did you see that caught your attention?
Just the whole idea of having space stations and places to go. Now, it's never evolved yet to the size or dimensions or the functionality. The space station seems sort of like a global Hilton in the sky, and it hasn't really adapted. Yeah.
Well, Howard Johnson's and Hilton.
Howard Johnson, yeah. But our space stations haven't evolved to that yet. It's not commercial flight at this point, but the idea of a space station docking places that were stayovers for and launching sites for space travel is we have it now. We didn't have it then.
Yeah. I thought it was very quaint that Dr. Floyd called home with a phone number.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. Well, at the time, that makes sense. And look at who is handling the communication. It's AT&T, the Bell company. And then at the end, they make a point to show you how much a long distance phone call cost.
Yes.
So he spent $1.70 to do a video call to Earth, and okay, so that's one that we got wrong. Long distance phone calls that's gone now, at least in country.
But Jeff, a vertical video call too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
not landscape, but portrait.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you one that I bet a lot of people miss. Solid state data storage. When Dave starts disconnecting Hal's functions, it's basically an SSD that slides up out. That's all solid state optical storage.
I had that in my notes, Jeff.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the chips on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, the isolinear chips.
Yeah, the isolinear chips. Yeah. One disturbing point that I found: the zero gravity toilet required 10 paragraphs of instructions.
Well, yeah, and it advises that you read them before you use the toilet.
Yeah, that's.
And okay, so here's a subtle dig at how complicated it must be. So Dr. Floyd, He has been on Clavius Base multiple times. He has been at the orbiting space station multiple times.
Yeah.
He's on the shuttle going to the moon, and he's reading all the instructions on how to use the zero gravity toilet, something that he has presumably used multiple times.
Or maybe not. Maybe he's just really.
Maybe this was a first.
Yeah, maybe he's space constipated. Who knows?
Well, to be fair, it's the kind of thing that, if there's one set of instructions you want to read, it's probably the zero gravity toilet to make sure nothing goes wrong. So.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Okay,
how about
to the
iPads?
degree that?
Oh, go ahead.
Just to go back to the toilet thing, to the degree, just with the recent space shuttle issue, they had some problems with their toilet. So I don't know if they took any lessons from zero gravity toilet instructions in 2001, but that has evolved to what we have now in space shuttles. So
yeah. Marty, it's funny you say that, because I found that several times that, and maybe if we did this at any other time, you'd still do it, but there were little pieces like that really you relate to the current state of things as we have it now, that there were still issues back then like that. So, yeah. I'm sorry, Jeff, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I wanted to bring up iPads or tablet computing, which is an obvious thing for us to discuss. So I'm going to take one of the other side bits from that and talk about that, which is the whole thing with people just being glued to their tablet or phone screens. So what do they do when they're eating? They're just sitting there looking at the screen, not paying attention to each other. They're sitting there together, and they're just looking at the screens while they're eating.
Yep, they got that right. They got that one right. The camera that they were using when they were going to take pictures of everyone at the Monoliths, it even looked better than a DSLR. I mean,
yeah, it looked like an old brownie box camera in a lot of ways.
I agree, but I also think it was a really clever design, because if you look at what happens when he takes a film photograph, he has to advance the film, but everything has to be contained in a sealed environment. And so I feel like a big part of that camera is actually the mechanical elements, because you're holding these handles and they twist. And when you twist, it advances the film. So yeah, way too big. And it's film. We've gone way beyond what they were doing with that camera. So today it would be, and just a push button housing would on have your suit.
Yeah. The housing would have to be, at that time, in a vacuum. The housing would have to be pretty self-contained and to allow that kind of movement of film through the environment, through the casing too. So.
Yep.
And Jeff, to your point, that the two handles, I mean, they are like the handles that come with the cage that I use with my iPhone when I go to trade shows. And I've taken those handles off, and now I want to put them back on just so it looks like the 2001 camera.
Well, and you can probably hold it more stable with the big handles on it.
Absolutely.
So in one way, they did get it right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what the state of professional photography was at that time, because I was kind of young for that. But I don't recall seeing a whole lot of cameras that had big handles on them. So, yeah, this was very much a foreshadowing.
Remember, we had not landed on the moon yet when this movie came out. So they were projecting, based on talking with scientists and engineers, what the technology would be like when they were actually there.
But the camera would also be 1/6 the weight of whatever it is on Earth, too. So if it's big and clumsy, it's not necessarily big and clumsy on the moon.
Yeah. That's true.
So before we get to the obvious one, Hal, anything else that struck you from the foreshadowing standpoint?
Yes, and it's a couple of things they got wrong, but we're kind of close. And the first one is civilian space travel, and we do have that today, but it's more like an amusement park ride because you have to be ultra rich, and then you get in one of Elon. One of his capsules or one of Branson's capsules, and you do a LEO shot. So we do have civilian space travel, but it's a toy. It's not like getting on an airplane and flying to another city. Deep space missions in the movie, that's manned. We are doing deep space missions, and we're doing it very successfully. It's just not manned.
True. Good
so
point.
close, but
Also,
not quite.
Yeah, we haven't really developed the science of rotating spacecraft. My thought on that is that might require more energy to create artificial gravity than not, in terms of energy expended by the spacecraft to generate that rotation and keep that rotation to a level where it would create an artificial gravity. So that hasn't come through.
I think artificial gravity will play out more like what we see in The Expanse, where it's based on acceleration and deceleration of the craft as opposed to spinning. But orbital craft, like a space station, I think it would probably be more practical to spin a station that's orbiting Earth to create a gravity as opposed to doing it on an interplanetary spacecraft.
Well, on an interplanetary spacecraft, you'd have acceleration and deceleration
like in The Expanse,
like in The Expanse. And so it would only make sense in something like Discovery, where it's going to be traveling for a long time.
But even still, Discovery uses a centrifugal ring for its gravity.
Right. So it's not the craft that's spinning; it's the ring that's spinning.
Yeah, inside the ball.
Right. How is we've covered a lot of stuff here that foreshadows, but let's get to how, because how Hal is being interviewed, he describes himself as having a stimulating relationship with the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they were even interviewing Hal as the computer, is an interesting thing, because we haven't quite gotten there yet, but it feels like we're getting dangerously close.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we are as far away from that as we are from Jupiter. Where we are, though, is so close to being able to mimic with an LLM or an AI system things that come across as human, things that we can anthropomorphize. And the difference with Hal is that Hal is portrayed in the movie is actually being so advanced that it's not merely parroting things to put up a facade of being more human-like. It actually is what they portray it as.
But I think
so. I think a more pragmatic look at our current state of AI.
Yeah, I think Hal, though, is an LLM in the way that he is responding to the interviewer's questions in what would be the next logical step. next logical thought that would come out based on the question as it was. And in fact, being an LLM explains why Hal went nuts, if you want to say it. It explains a little of it in 2001, but it really explains it in 2010. The fact that he was given poor data, poor input, didn't have all the information he needed to make a sound decision. And until that happens in 2010, people are all worried about him and how he's going to react. So I think I don't think he's a full sentient being. I grant you that he doesn't have sentient kinds of ways of thinking, but he really does seem to take logical chains as an LLM would in predicting what the next best response would be.
All right, that's really interesting, and I like that. Okay, so the problem that I have with that is when you get to the end of 2010, because HAL evolves, and I don't think an LLM would be able to do what HAL does at the end of 2010. Spoilers, but. So how about if I say I love the idea and I think LLM is a core part of HAL's functionality, but that computer system is more advanced, so it's able to act in a way that goes beyond what an LLM does, where it has more of a true learning capability. And more of a reactionary decision-making system as opposed to what's the next logical thing that would happen based on the thing that just happened, like an LLM does.
Yeah, but once given the information, and in 2010, he then has different paths to choose from to choose of the next logical step. So I don't know if that's sentient or that he's got a larger source of material to make better decisions with, or suggest and go, this is the first thing that we should consider. The second thing we could consider, but it's not going to work. Here's the probability. You can do that with LLMs now if they're given enough data.
That's true.
I think, Chandra, who was played by Bob Balaban, was his own kind of little weirdness in 2010, but well played by Bob Balaban. But the idea that he was the one that actually had faith in Hal, and everybody else was like, we don't know if we should give him the reality because he could just go nuts.
Okay, no, but no, wait a minute. Let's catch up here for the folks maybe who don't recall seeing the movie. So Hal went crazy, and no, scratch that. Hal went rogue. Hal was dedicated to the mission, and the mission started, according to Hal, started to be endangered by the two astronauts. Then in 2010, and this is why I wanted to put the two movies together, because it was never really explained why Hal decided to kill the astronauts, the whole crew, except he was not successful with Bowman. And in 2010, they explained it, that, and Chandra said it had a little soliloquy about it, that Hal lied because he was given instructions by people who find it easy to lie. And this resonated with me with some of the things we've seen with current LLMs, notably Grok, as things were happening, that it went dark. It went to a darker side. Once Chandra got on the Discovery, and allegedly, I guess, fixed Hal, gave Hal the full details of the mission, Hal went back to functioning normally. So. What was it, Marty, to your point, was it an LLM that had been given bad information and started to go rogue? Or was it?
Or hallucinate.
Yeah. That's, and keep in mind, man, LLMs were, I don't even know if they were imagined when this came out. I'm not sure they were imagined when 2010 came out. And so we're sitting here measuring it by today's standards. but we have seen, we're seeing things now that they were writing up just as fiction then.
True.
Yeah.
Well, and look at the things we're doing with LLMs today compared to 5 years ago. I mean, this trajectory, I mean, it's fast and sharp.
Yeah. And to go back to the relationship thing, when Chandra is talking to Sal at the University of Illinois, Marty, he describes them as having a relationship.
Yeah.
So, there is this mentality, this idea, and of course we're seeing it now where people are allegedly forming relationships with their LLMs, and they're using LLMs for counseling and companionship. And so all of this is stuff that, is right here in these movies that were made decades ago.
All right.
Yeah. And
so
LLMs,
go ahead.
Yeah, LLMs are nowadays are kind of programmed to give you what you want to hear. And so what you're feeding it is, and unlike HAL, what you're feeding it is what it believes is good information. And HAL believed what it was getting was good information, and certain aspects of the mission were not. He was lied about. And so then you see the reaction that he has, which I would interpret as a hallucination, that he was almost a paranoid delusion because he had to save the mission. The mission was everything, even at the cost of the people on board.
Agreed.
Okay, so this little discussion has tempered my perspective on HAL as LLM. Okay, I believe that when HAL was envisioned, HAL was not envisioned as an LLM. However, the way technology has progressed, there definitely are very strong LLM aspects of how we can interpret HAL today. So yeah, if HAL was invented today, then yeah, I think it would be very much an LLM type situation.
Life imitating art.
Yeah,
is
in
it
this
life
case,
imitating
life
art?
imitating. Yeah.
Or is it art?
Yeah.
Is it art imitating life?
Well, in this case, because of the chronological order, this would be life imitating art.
Okay. Yeah. It's fun to contemplate, and see the reality of some of these things that at that time were just, I'm not ready to say entertainment, because I'm not sure Arthur C. Clarke set out to be, a futurist from a I guess a prognosticative sense. But let's see. Oh, two things I definitely wanted to call out. They're very small pieces in 2010, but I'm hoping you both noticed the Apple IIc with the optional LCD panel on the beach.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Portable laptop computing. Thank you. I wanted to bring that up. So thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I'm not sure that I had an Apple IIc. I never had the little LCD screen. I really wanted the little LCD screen, but I'm not sure I ever would have wanted to take it to the beach, because of the sand.
I've seen so many people on beaches with their laptops, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I'd want mine on the beach.
Yeah. The second thing, do you remember when Floyd was jogging and his son was riding the bicycle, that an electric car came by and you could hear?
Oh yeah,
it was an electric car. I love that, because now I'm driving a hybrid, but I hear electric cars go by all the time, and I almost missed it because it's so common now, but then not even close.
So do you think this was this a concept from the book, or was this a concept from the production that said, okay, we're going to have a vehicle come by, but it's got to look futuristic, and it won't have any noise. It won't have any sound. It'll sound like a running fan or something like that.
I don't even know.
Any ideas on where that?
I don't know if it was mentioned. I don't remember it being mentioned in the book because it was a complete throwaway. It's not like Floyd was driving the car or anything like that. It's just, it went past him, and it was whining like an electric car does now.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've read the book. I remember that they talked about driving, but I don't recall if Clarke talked about the technology for the engine or motor. Yeah,
and Clarke was much more collaborative. Not that there was a problem. It was just two different visions with 2001 of what was put together and agreed upon, and then what wound up in the film. Versus with Hyams, it reported he was much more collaborative. So maybe Hyams said, I want to do this shot. What do I need to do this? And Clarke said, put in a car that doesn't have an engine noise because we're talking about the future. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. It just, once again, and that the whole foreshadowing tech thing, we're seeing things that now you almost just take for granted. You almost miss it because it's so common in our world. But back then, the closest thing you had to an electric vehicle was a golf cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's an aesthetic thing that to me is really interesting between the movies, especially because you get to see the aesthetic differences in 2010. So when you look at the technology, the spacecraft, the Discovery in 2001, it's this very sleek 1960s idea of what our technology will be like in the future. And when we get to the movie 2010, the aesthetic ideas have changed because a lot of the technologies that we see in 2001 either exist or are evolving to what we have today. And so it has this more clunky, boxy look. And I like how they did that. I'm sure part of that is, well, what's the difference in the way United States designs spacecraft, and at the time the Soviet Union designs spacecraft, and so that was part of that too. But I just really like that you get these two very different aesthetics, and they stay true to both of those, because eventually what's the craft, the Leonov gets to Io, and they board Discovery, and it's beautiful because it's Discovery on the inside, even down to the extra spacesuits hanging in the pod bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the differences in aesthetic, I think, were definitely seen in the two movies. If I were to imagine what a Russian spaceship would look like, it would have been like the Leonov. And the Discovery looked so fragile in 2010, and that might have been a change in my sense of aesthetics around design.
Well, by that time we already had Star Wars under our belt, where everything was like this junky boy ship thing, and in 2001 we get to see something that's more realistic for what a spacecraft could look like, because it's never designed to go into an atmosphere. It's just a ship in space. And there's a lot of things you can do to make an efficient ship if it's never going to have to touch an atmosphere.
Right.
Marty, you've got me confused now, because I've got to think about that, because obviously they couldn't change the design of Discovery between the two movies. But I'm thinking about camera angles. I mean, with the discovery in 2001, there were a lot of hero shots, a lot of that. In 2010, I think there were more long shots.
Right.
But I've really got to get.
I would agree.
Now I want to go back and look and see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The other thing too, 2010 or 2001, at that time we were in a space race to land on the moon. So it was competition. It wasn't cooperation. In 2010, you have cooperation, but the Chinese are still out of the picture, which is interesting. And I think they attempted to land on Io, which went
horribly wrong for them.
Wrong from Yeah.
But and
oh no, Europa. They landed on Europa.
Europa. Yeah.
We're not going to talk about politics, but as we record this right now, the whole crisis that precipitated, some of the cooperation or some of the getting to Jupiter, the blockade in what was it, Central America, I think, as opposed to right now we have the blockade in the Suez Canal, the Straits of Hormuz. It just
Chuck, everything changes and it stays the same. Sometimes it's just the name.
Yep, it did. There were places from the political standpoint that it felt exactly that way, Jeff. So this just felt so right at home.
It's almost like they're saying, "Hey, I saw this really good movie that tells us we should do this, despite it had really horrible consequences. We're going to do it anyways."
Yeah. Okay. So building on that, one thing that's not in the movie 2001 that's in the book is the superpowers are rushing headstrong into nuclear war, and at the end of the book, the war actually starts. But the Star Child, Dave Bowman Evolved, shows up and just hand waves away the nuclear missiles that are being launched. And but in 2010, the nuclear war threat, that we actually see that playing out in that movie, which makes the whole collaboration between the United States and the now former Soviet Union just very interesting.
Yeah, but Dave Bowman shows up in 2010 throughout the movie. I mean, to comb his mother's hair. Yeah,
he talks with Dr. Chandra.
Yeah, right.
In the pod bay, talks with Hal a lot, and is there when Hal evolves into its own sentient life form.
The whole thing, it just strikes me from top to bottom as being so relevant in so many ways. We're probably going to end up getting into some science fiction that feels really dated, even though it might have foreshadowed some things. But this just none of it felt like, oh, I'm watching, an old Flash Gordon serial or something like that. It just, I thoroughly enjoyed rewatching these movies with some intentionality again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 2001 changed they couldn't make movies like the way they used to make movies like Forbidden Planet and the old Flash Gordon stuff. That could not that media, that storytelling could not exist anymore after 2001. So it advanced the way in which we think of futurism and particularly futurism in space. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk Star Wars for just a second. George Lucas had a vision for Star Wars. I think he would not have been able to bring that vision to screen in the way that he wanted if 2001 hadn't been made. I feel like he would have been pushed into making like what Chuck just said, a Flash Gordon campy serial type show that couldn't even use the type of music that George wanted. George wanted what we got. What he was being pressured into doing was that kind of disco-y synth sort of music that you were seeing in other movies, in other sci-fi movies of the day. And George was like, no, we need John Williams to write a proper classic style soundtrack. And that's what we ended up getting. I don't think we could have gotten that if 2001 hadn't just blown that door open for us.
Jeff, I agree. And I think you just said it earlier, though. Everything builds on itself, and especially in the world of sci-fi, not just from the foreshadowing tech part, but also just the concepts of how things evolved, the social implications of it, the fact that in the movie they pulled back from war because now they discover they're not alone. In the universe. I mean, there's so many things here that just, some of them are very common themes in science fiction. Others maybe not so much, but try to apply them to the real world today, and it all just feels very, very relevant.
Yeah. To me, that's part of the brilliance of 2001, especially. I mean, yes, 2010 as well, but especially 2001. It's timeless in some ways.
2001 seemed like it was the story of David Bowman, and it was about that and HAL and that evolution. 2010 ends with such a socio-political statement at the end of it. My kids will now be born under two suns, or your children will be born under two suns. Really, it kind of needed to have this big paradigm shift, like having a second sun, in order to waken people up to the fact that they're really not alone.
Maybe that's what we need in today's world, Marty.
I could use a second sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, deep sighs from the panel here.
Yeah.
I like the fact, though, that instead of just having the crazy AI kill the crew with no real explanation, that they wrap that up. And not because I'm hoping that AI is a benevolent thing or whatever. It just felt that's the only part of 2001 that maybe fed into people's fears at the time about large language, about AI, call it what you will. And it didn't.
Well, at the time, it would have just been computers.
Well, that's true too, Jeff. That's fair. Yeah. And, as it turns out, they wrapped it up quite nicely, and it felt very comfortable that, okay, so there was a reason that Hal killed the crew, and it really wasn't Hal's fault.
Well, and it goes back to exactly what Hal said in the first movie when Hal and Dave and Frank are talking about the communication unit that they can't find anything wrong with, but Hal predicted it's going to fail, and Hal. And Dave says, so what can you attribute this to? Is it possible you have made an error? And Hal comes back and says, well, there's only one explanation. And it's an explanation we have found in every instance like this. And it's human error. And what does it turn out to be in 2010 that made Hal go rogue? It was human error in feeding him information that created this contradictory loop and caused him to go rogue.
What's redeeming about this is Hal, because they could not have solved that problem, the launch problem, getting safely away from what was going on in Jupiter, without Hal's help. There was no human solution to that problem. And, Hal becomes the hero in the end of this. So it takes that 2001, be afraid of computers, to computers can really kind of do things for you when you can't manage or figure them out yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. 2010 takes Hal from being the villain to the victim.
To the hero.
Yeah.
To the hero. Yeah.
Yes. So that's a pretty impressive growth arc. And it turns out that character isn't even an actual person. It's a prop on a... Yeah.
I've got the feeling we're getting to the end of this, but I have two questions just out of curiosity. One, we never got Cryosleep. Is that anything that you would Cryosleep? Is there anything that any of that you would interest you? Would you like to change your timeline if you could?
Boy, Marty, that's a really interesting question. Because there are times I feel like I was born a little too late, and there are other times I feel like I was born a little too early, depending on where we are in the evolution of things, especially technology, because that's a bit of a passion. So I don't know. Probably if I had people here that now that I cared about, probably not. If I had, sorry to use the phrase, but nothing to live for, then sure, why not? Take a shot at it.
So in specific contexts, I would find that to be a very useful technology. Maybe not for me directly, but I suppose depending on how life progresses, sure, maybe for me too. But the idea of doing an extended deep space exploration thing where we are going to another planet or another solar system, I could see where if that was the sort of mission that I was on, I'd be fine with being in a cryogenic suspended animation thing, knowing full well that by the time my mission ended, all the people that I know and care about are going to be gone. But that's because, that's the thing where you've like, okay, I've decided this is so important that I need to do this. And so I've wrapped up whatever I need to with my family and friends before I leave. Or if it's a situation where you have some terminal disease, but the technology, the science to address that seems like it might be soon. All right, well, let's stop the progression of this fatal disease, and then pull you back out when we have the cure, and then you're fine. But then again, that's a situation where you have to accept the fact that when you wake up, if you wake up, that your family is probably long gone, and which then becomes an interesting point that comes up in what was the next one, 3001, the where Frank is revived.
They brought back, yeah.
And so he's essentially been in a cryogenic state for 1,000 years, and when he's revived, he does have to come to terms with the idea that everyone he knew has been gone for a very long time.
Well, think about what it would be like if in 2001. I mean, forget the 1,000 years. If 2001, if you had gone into cryogenic sleep then, and awakened now, I mean, the world is radically, radically different. Human interactions are radically, radically different. It would be
but there's a lot that's still the same.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question, Jeff.
Yeah.
But
it'd be a culture shock in a huge way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's there's a lot of things I'd like to see 10 years from now or 15 years from now, not 100 years from now. I would love to see my kids older. I'd like to see if they have kids, interacting with them when they're older. And then I don't know. It's sort of like I just want to stay on this same timeline. That's the cards that have been dealt me, and sort of why mess with that temporal piece. Okay, a second question, quick. You die and you go to whatever afterlife you believe in or don't believe in, or you become a star child.
Wow.
Oh, star child every time.
Star child.
Yeah.
From what we
Okay.
know
So,
about it.
all right. So here's the process I'm working through, Marty. So I personally do not believe that there is an afterlife. So when I'm gone, I do become part of the universe, because what I am gets broken down and absorbed back into our environment in some way. So I continue on in a philosophical sense, even though I'm just gone. And there is something appealing about that, even though it's also scary to think that, wow, it's finite. When I'm gone, I'm just gone. But at the same time, the perspective you would have as the star child, it's a whole new reality for you. And you're going to grow from the star child into apparently into David Bowie, because then you become Starman at some point. But the whole idea of getting to experience reality from that new perspective, that's very enticing. And I could totally see, just if I'm at that point where I have to choose between the two, choosing Star Child.
Yeah, it sounds like it's infinite. It is something that it's a job you don't retire from. And it's a completely different plane of existence, which would be like a completely different life. It's not like you're extending the one that you know. You're just entering a completely different one. So
yeah, and
we all do have we all do have 17 nitrogen atoms from Elvis. So if you
so
think
at least
of that,
we have that going for us.
Yeah, we got everybody's got a little Elvis in them. So
yeah. Well, okay. So Marty, with the way I, as a human in this form, perceive reality, the idea of having to perceive reality indefinitely, forever, that is not appealing. That to me sounds like a long, grueling path down insanity, and that is not appealing. But the evolution to the Star Child, well, there's no way I'm perceiving reality in the way that I do right now. So yeah, maybe that could be really interesting.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to end it. We're very metaphysical here all of a sudden at the end, but that's kind of the attitude that I can easily see how both of these movies could take you down that path and make you wonder. And especially with Floyd's comments at the end, like Marty said about, Jeff said, two sons, that was children Marty. Will grow up. Whoever said it, that he is looking to the future as to, what is in store for mankind and for his children. So folks, if you haven't seen these movies, or if you have not seen them in a while, hopefully we've given you something to think about if and when you do go back and watch them, because I think they're both fun. They have different paces, like we've talked about, but they're great movies. And we're going to do more of this, but we really want to have you tell us what you think about it. Did you come along and have as much fun as we did? I hope you did. So drop me an email. Again, chuck@macvoices.com. You'll see more of these in the MacVoices feeds. Not too many, but enough to hopefully to entertain and maybe make you think a little bit. Before we go, though, I want to make sure you know where you can find these other two gentlemen, because I really appreciate their time and their thoughtfulness. They clearly did their homework. If I'll flip it around, Jeff, where can folks find you as of now?
As of now, well, before I evolve, how about on my two blogs, freshbrewedtales.com and jeffgamet.com. And then on social media, Jay Gamet on pretty much all of them, but mostly active right now on Mastodon, Pixelfed, and Blue Sky. And instead of doing like tons of shows, how about if I just toss out a couple right now? So Retro Rewatch, the show that I do with Patrice Brendamore, and everyone already knows about MacVoices Live. So In Touch with iOS, Dave Ginsburg show.
Excellent.
There's more. Just Google me.
Yeah, there are more, definitely. Jeff, thanks so much. Marty Jencius, thank you for being here. You are probably you're the only guy I know that might be able to rival the number of shows that Jeff has with the number of shows.
Well, in that sense, if you want to find out what things I'm doing, go to the podtalk.net. I keep that website as up to date as I can with the different programs. I'll mention too, because we talked about movies today, Fade to Chat, which I do with Cindy Rotz, and we talk about movies of the 30s, 40s, 50s. We don't quite get into the 60s and the two movies we talked about today, but take a look at that. Fade to Chat, Golden Age Cinema, and just on a bunch of different tech-related shows, including MacVoices and also Dave Ginsburg's In Touch with iOS, and then the Mac Show. And then I produce a bunch of them myself. You can find at thepodtalk.net. Check up with me at Jencius, Jencius, on any of the socials. And thanks for doing this, Chuck. This is fun.
Hey, thank you, Marty. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do more. We're going to do more because this was a lot of fun. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Foreshadowing Tech on MacVoices. Join us next time for our regular MacVoices content, and look for the next Foreshadowing Tech soon. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.